Welcome to another episode of Health Your Way podcast, where we discuss health issues ranging from physical, mental, emotional, as well as current facts. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about sex, shame, and the female orgasm. And please allow me to introduce my guest, Rashida, a sexual educator, a coach, and works with women who may be on the path of healing from sexual relationships, trauma, as well as those who are interested in learning more about their bodies and increasing pleasure for themselves or for their partners as well. I got that correct, right, Rashida?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much for having me, Mo. I really appreciate being here.
Likewise, I think your platform and your information, your knowledge needs to be heard. I do know that there's some, but a lot of people don't take initiative and it's not really out there. So I really wanted to talk about this whole topic today. I know, thank you. And I think for as a society, is it fair to say that we're overly sexualized, but then for some reason talking about sex is taboo? What are your thoughts on how this affects female sexuality, or as seen or discussed? Like, what are your thoughts really?
Well, absolutely. As women, we are definitely overly sexualized in society, and it stems from media, things that we watch, the advertisements that we see. We're always overly sexualized. But then on the other hand of that, we are not allowed to have a healthy sexual expression. So it almost leaves women feeling like I don't know where to fit in, because on one hand, they use my body to sell cars, but on the other hand, I cannot express my body to, in the way that I want to. I mean, you think back to, some of the, older time, at car ads, they'd have a really pretty lady stretch on the hood of a car. I mean, why else because you're enticed to think that, oh, if I have this car, I'm going to get a girl who looks like her. Yet the girl who looks like her isn't allowed to express her body the way that she wants to. So a lot of women, we're kind of caught into the middle, trying to navigate how do we express ourselves and express our sexuality in a meaningful way that it feels right to us. And I think that stems from a lot of, largely from the society over-policing our bodies. So there's this lack of autonomy over female bodies. For instance, we live heavily in a patriarchal society. So a lot of what we do and a lot of how we make our decisions are informed by men. Unfortunately, because of that, a lot of women are not free to express themselves because they are somehow viewed as a property of said men. And because of that, our decisions are then informed from that sort of narrative and thinking. And I'll give an example. For instance, when if you think about, rape culture, for example, and if somebody is brutally victimized in this way, first instance is, how do we then navigate? How do we defend the defendant? It's not the victim was automatically something that she did. It was right away. What was she wearing? Where was she going? Why was she by herself? It was not that. Why did this person perpetrate her? Why did this person victimize her in that way? This is how, as women, we have to navigate, because if we are in situations that are detrimental to us and are not able to speak up, then we make our decisions from that lens. And so sometimes in society, we are overly sexualized in this way, and then we're not free to also speak up our minds in terms of how we're being sexualized. And that's where a lot of women are caught in the middle, trying to figure it out, trying to make sense of it all.
You said so much and it resonated. No, like in a good way, because when you mentioned how, as a woman, when you're in a relationship, or even if you're born, or like your father, you're that property in a sense. Like when you talk about women, like I'm dating this man, my man says I can't wear this because he knows this is. I just realized, and I may have never actually had that experience, but you hear women talk about, well, I can't do this or why can't that, because that's my man's gonna have an issue with that.
Exactly.
Is he wearing it? Is he wearing that clothes? No, he's not.
He's not, exactly. But the thing is, we make our decisions based on these, even if we're not directly impacted. Like you said, it may not have happened with you, but you know women who this has happened to. We've heard of the stories. So yes, we all sort of make our decisions based on all these things that happen in the world, even if they don't directly impact us.
And that's scary. And then even not only about being men's property, like we talk about religion, like I don't know what religion people are. I'm not here to judge any religion, or even pornography, right? Or porno industry itself, right? And they also, it's fair to say, have an impact on women, how they relate to sexual intercourse, right? Or orgasm. The reason why I say this is that religion, I think, has a huge impact, and pornography has a huge impact. What are your thoughts on how they have a huge impact on women like us?
Absolutely. So I think on one hand, religion has this idea that sex is just for procreation, and sex
Yes.
only exists between a man and a woman. Those are the only two ways that sex exists, and that's the way you need to have sex. So therefore, if you have sex outside of those bounds, something is wrong with you. You're not a good person. All of those other issues start to come up. So there's that. Then you have pornography on the other end. So it's like on the complete end of it, whereas like pornography is made to just for male consumption. It's from the male dominated lens. We are here to please and service them and how they like it and what they want. And what we need is non-existent.
Do you see my face right now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like,
I do.
I'm sorry.
Because it's complete nonsense. I understand.
All right, please. Let me not stop your thought process. I'm sorry, audience. I know she has a lot to say, but I was just like, okay, go, please. I'm sorry, Rashida, go.
It's triggering. I get it, and this is why I do the work that I do, because it's triggering. I'm always on a state of being triggered because it doesn't make any sense. Because where do we fit in then? If I could only have sex for procreation, but then on the other hand, I could only have sex to please my man. Well, what about me? Where has a conversation happened about me? No one has talked about me yet. I haven't entered the conversation yet. I'm there. I'm there for both. I'm participating in both activities, but you haven't spoken about me at all. So I think that's sometimes where religion and pornography kind of do a disservice to female sexuality.
100%.
There are positive things that can come from pornography, and there are wonderful positive things that can come from religion. I'm not going to sit here and talk negatively about them, but if it would be, I would be remiss to say that they haven't affected us negatively. Absolutely. No doubt.
And okay. Let me just calm myself down and let's move on to this conversation. But with that said, like, I think how do those people not let those religion or those pornography or their family members or their boyfriends shape their sexual health? I guess that's what I'm really asking. How do they get their own identity?
And I think how I would even base it is, how do all women, because not even just any particular woman, how do all women reshape and rethink about their sexuality? And I really think that comes from critical thinking. So as much as we are inundated with different stories and narratives throughout our lives, so we're going to learn about sex and all those things and morality and what's wrong and what's right from childhood. We don't really have any control over those things because our parents are here to take care of us. Our community is here to take care of us. As you grow up and you enter the larger world and you start to come in contact with different things, you do then get in contact with different ways of thinking. You are then allowed to change your mind once you've come across information that challenges information that you already thought to be true. So I think the problem is that sometimes people have this very narrow-minded outlook on a particular topic and are not willing to look at other perspectives. And if you want to shift and if you want to somehow take ownership of your sexuality, you have to be willing and open to look at other perspectives. The one perspective that you have and that you've always had is not necessarily the only right one per se. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't even consider it right or wrong. Just know that there's different. And different, it doesn't necessarily mean bad. Different doesn't equate to being something that is a negative. I think that's a lot of the times in society, if we think of something that is different, it's not a good thing for some reason. Different means bad, different means other, different. Nobody wants to be different. So I think that's where some of the issues come into play. So if you as a woman want to take stock of your sexuality and really understand how you feel and what what the information that you've been hearing in the world, you need to do some critical thinking. You need to learn about your body first and foremost and listen to your intuition, because ultimately as women, our intuition will always guide us. A lot of the times though, the issue comes up, and I find this a lot with clients, is our intuition is not necessarily our voice. Our intuition has been the voices of other people in our lives, and therefore we cannot trust what we feel and think, because other people have told us what to feel and think. So I think it's once you get to the root of that, then you can start to really own your sexuality the way in which you choose to do so. Because at the end of the day, it's a very intimate thing. It's a very personal thing. And no one else really has the right to dictate how it shows up for you.
100%. I think that's correct. It's more like, who are you to tell me how I should feel and stuff like that. And as you stated before, there's no right or wrong. It's just finding something that works for you and finding a balance. Like if you feel like, sex is just only for reproductive, that's for you. That's how you feel,
Absolutely.
go with that. I think for the other ones that are open, that are thinking there should be more, then that's where you basically realize, okay, research, figure out what works for you, and find a balance. We're not saying go to the extreme to pornography or go to the extreme to, it's just finding that balance that works for you.
What works for you ultimately. Yeah. What serves you, so that way you, at the end of the day, we will live and die with ourselves. So you need to be able to look in the mirror at yourself and be completely happy with who you are and the way you chose to live your life. So if you do anything in your life that makes you have to pause, or you feel some sort of a negative way about yourself because of a decision that you're making, look into that, regardless of what it is. And I think that's what, as women, sometimes we don't have the permission to do. We're not really allowed to just look at ourselves and live ourselves for ourselves. We are told we have to be the caregivers, we have to be the nurturers, we have to be everything for everybody but ourselves.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you have to be yourself. You have to be you for yourself first, and then you can show up to be you for everyone else.
I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of women need to hear that. And I find that a lot of people hear that after they've been divorced or had their kids, and they're trying to figure out who they are. Because I see that, and it's so disheartening. Like, if you can, because they've been a mother, they've been a wife, and they haven't had their own sexual, I guess, awakening.
Yes.
Or understanding. And then when they hit their 50s or 60s, now they're divorced, or their husband's now having some younger woman, or their experience of life, and they're like, what happened to me? And I know a lot of women or may not get sexual orgasm from intercourse, right? And I think for them, they're listening to you, what other options are available for them to basically get that kind of feeling that they see on, that scene being portrayed on in pornography? Sorry.
Right. I think, well, the first step I would say is stop watching porn, to be perfectly honest with you, because sometimes we have to understand that sometimes the things that we consume, the information that we consume does shape our thoughts and feelings and our thought processes. So sometimes taking that away helps to change how we think and process about things. Another thing I would say is definitely explore your body, first and foremost. I mean, that's always my number one go-to. Explore your own self first. Understand what you like, how you like it, so that way you can communicate that to someone else. Because it's very difficult to express what you like when you don't even know what you like. And it's not your partner's job to figure it out. They're there to help you if you do have a partner, if that is the case. But if you do not, then you need to be able to figure this out on your own. So self-play is a huge, huge way for you to navigate what you enjoy and how you can get yourself to orgasm, if that is the goal. But also, I say sometimes taking orgasm off of the table. There's a lot of pressure for this big, huge, earth-shattering orgasm that's supposed to happen, and we're all supposed to feel like, because when we see movies and TV, it seems like this wonderful experience, and it is, and it can be. But at the same time, I think the goal really should be just pleasuring and honoring your body in whichever way how that manifests. So it's really looking at yourself and learning your body intimately. So inside and out, you should know your body better than anyone else. That's the first goal, because then you will be able to show up and show that to someone else who is willing and wanting to learn how to please you in that way as well. And I mean, there's toys, you can use your hands. There's so many options for women. I think you really have to just be willing to explore is really the key. Be open-minded and be willing to explore.
That's fair. It's basically self-love, but then every experience shame when it comes to pleasuring themselves, stuff like that, right? So I think for the audience itself, how do they educate themselves on not feeling shame or learning more about the sexual health? Where would they start?
Well, I definitely say, reading. Reading is fundamental.
Okay.
I learned a lot, even when I was young. I read a lot of books. Learn your body. There's a wonderful resources. I know there's a couple of books that I could recommend. There's a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. That's an amazing book on female pleasure and understanding our body and understanding our desire and arousal. There's wonderful, Instagram accounts that you can get lots of information from. My website, my Instagram account as well has lots of information. I feel that education is key. Knowledge, if you decide to really empower yourself and learn more about your body, then the shame sort of goes away. Because I think when you think about it, our entire lives as women, we're told that our, you know, down there is something to be put away. It's something that we don't show, we don't talk about it. You know, close your legs, all the things. All the things. We're not supposed to talk about it. And so then therefore you don't take ownership of this very intimate part of your body, because all along you've been told that this part of you is to be put away. This part of you is dirty. This part of you is to be shamed. And this is the problem. So if you decide to take that back, so learning what your vulva looks like, learning all the atomically correct names for all the areas of your body. It's no longer these little pet names that we hear. Call it what it is. A vagina is a vagina. A vulva is a vulva. Like, you need to know your body intimately. And I think once you start to educate yourself on your body, then some of the shame starts to come off, because then you realize it's not so bad. It isn't this horrible, dirty, bad thing that everybody has been saying. It is just my body. It is just the way that God created me. And that's okay. He wouldn't have created me if it was something bad. He wouldn't have given me the ability to give life if it was a bad thing. You know, so I think we have to really start to really just think about how we look and view our bodies. And that's a process. It's not something that you just wake up in the morning and decide to do. You kind of have to take you know, steps. So I would say maybe the first thing, if you have shame, is maybe take a look at it. There's a lot of women, surprisingly, who don't even know what their own vagina looks like. They have no idea. They don't know what their own vulva looks like.
No, I heard what you said, Rashida.
Oh.
I heard what you said.
Oh, you heard me. Okay.
Yeah, I heard you. I heard what you said.
They don't know.
How do you not watch yourself? You got to watch yourself down there.
They watch themselves, but they don't know intimately what it looks like. So I always suggest take a mirror and take a look at it, because it's yours.
Okay.
And I think that's one, because that in itself, for a lot of people, is very difficult to do.
Really?
Yes. A lot of people have shame even just to look at it, but yet we lie down with our partners and they have a bird's eye view of this thing.
Yes.
Yet we do not. And it is ours. We are responsible for cleaning it, taking care of it, making sure that it's all, you know, it's healthy. Yet you don't look at it. So you have to be able to take away that shame and take away that veil, because it's just like another part of your body. It's just your body. It's nothing bad.
Who's the bad? Because we look, if you are into the male parts, or you look at the male part. Because you have to look at it, because before before you intercourse with it, you need to know what it looks like.
Right.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you are more of the other part, you're gonna have to look at that person's part, because no offense, is healthy. You want to see what that person looks like too, for your own safety. So for your knowledge, you may want to know what your vulva or your vagina is supposed to look healthy. And if it doesn't look healthy, you should be able to express that to your doctor and know your body.
Exactly. But that comes from a lot of shame of not being able to, which is why there are so many women who suffer from, you know, different female reproductive issues, because they don't even know when something is off, because you don't know when it was right. You can't, you won't know if something is okay, because you've never known, you know, you've never known what it looks like when it isn't okay. So this is a lot of issues.
That's very scary.
That. Like it is, because like, there's a lot of women who are suffering, and then you internalize that there must be something wrong with me. Again, there's something wrong with me. It goes back to this. There's something wrong with me because, you know, maybe women who suffer from BV, you know, bacterial vaginosis. And that's, you know, sometimes it can be highlighted with a very offsetting sort of smell.
Yeah.
But the thing is, BV can happen from anybody. It can be BV can happen from sexual intercourse. BV can happen from the detergents that you choose to use. BV can happen from the diet, from your stress. Like, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to why you have BV. But if you don't even know what it looks like down there, how can you tell your doctor, okay, this is what's happening to me. This is what this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. Or even, how do you know that your smell is off? Maybe that your smell isn't off. Maybe that's just your normal scent. But you wouldn't know, because you haven't taken the time to get to know yourself intimately. And so that's, I always charge women first, get to know yourself inside and out, like completely. Because honestly, sometimes our health depends on it.
I honestly, throughout this whole entire conversation, please understand, whoever's watching or listening, you have to know your body, not about for sexual aspects, but for your own health. If you don't know what your body looks like, if you don't know if there's a little bump there or that's normal and stuff like that, if you don't know that, you may be giving yourself long-term health issues that could have been prevented if you knew what your body looked like normally. Absolutely. And I'm sitting here listening to you saying, what do you mean people don't know what their body? You can't be ashamed. It's not about sexual aspects, but it's your personal health. Like we're told to check her, right? But we're not told to check that. Sorry.
This is the thing.
I know, and I just realized that. It just hit me right now that there's no real advertisement about, or do you know what your vulva looks like? Do you know how healthy your vulva is? Do you know what if the smell? Nobody educates you because it's so taboo to talk about. It's so
taboo, exactly, and that's where that's where the shame comes from. Because if I feel this way about my body just with me, of course that's going to translate now when I'm with a partner. There's no way. There's no way it's not going to translate because I am uncomfortable with myself by myself. So there's no way I'm going to be free with a partner. And then we have a lot of women walking around and we're just uncomfortable all around. And it's hard.
To add that, intercourse should not be painful. People, if at any point, please, intercourse should not be painful. I'm not even a sexual educator. I know this. It should not be painful. If you are cringy and you're hurting and that whatever form of tool, penis or whatever, if you are at the level of 10 or even 8, you need to stop. Whatever you do, you need to stop.
Stop and figure out why. Exactly.
Yes.
It's definitely indicated that something is wrong. And doesn't necessarily mean something medically. It could just be maybe you're not lubricated enough. Maybe you're not aroused enough. Like it could just be something as simple as you needed to take a step back and go slow.
Yes.
Maybe you need to buy some lubrication and use. There's nothing wrong with using lubrication, people. Like lubrication is key. Use it.
Or just educate yourself.
Educate yourself.
I'm just sitting here listening to you. Okay. So with that said, for the audience that need to be educated on sexual health, what's the best platform to reach you out for your service? Because I think you have a lot of information.
Thank you. So you can definitely find me on Instagram at Sex with Rashida. Also my website, fortheloveofyoni.ca. You can find me there. I have lots of resources. I have also created a 6-week reclaiming sexual sovereignty program. It's a group intensive. Thank you. It's a group intensive program for women. It's a small network of women that we're creating to help shift and change how we look at sex. So it's education about our bodies, education about pleasure. We're talking about healing from sexual trauma. We're going into everything, communication, all of it. We deal with it and we touch on it in the 6 weeks. So you can definitely find all that information on my website as well as Instagram at Rashida, Sex with Rashida on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely have that. With that said, when reaching out to you, what should our audience know that sets you apart from people that are in your field?
You know what? I truly love what I do. Like this is like my life's joy. I don't know how else to describe it. I can't see myself doing anything else. And I feel that I bring that joy into the work. I feel like people feel that, people see that. It comes from within. I was, you know what I mean? I was once that person who also had lots of shame, who had all the, man, when I talk about my story, it's a whole different thing. I was that woman who was meek and mild and put up with things that I shouldn't have put up with. And I understood what that felt like. So I come from a place of understanding where a lot of women are sitting, but also understanding that I shifted my mind and I'm in a different space. I'm in a much better space. And I want other women to join me there. And I feel that I'm approachable for the most part. I'm not stuffy. I'm fun. We didn't curse today, but I usually curse because I know to mind my words. But I'm relatable. I really love what it is that I do. And I feel that if we just take away this whole idea that sex is something harmful and shameful, people would lead such a much more healthier life and happier life. I mean, I'm happy. There's a joy inside of me that you can't even take away. So I want people to express it just as much.
I appreciate that. And it's been a sincere pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today on our weekly episode of Health Your Way podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and please feel free to comment below and ask any questions on topics we discussed, as well as future topics you'd like to hear about. Have a happy and healthy week, and be sure to tune in next week for the next episode on our Health Your Way podcast.